Maryland Comptroller Peter Franchot, he'd like to change that. He joins us right now. Sir, thanks for joining us.
Great to talk to you guys. I really appreciate what you guys do for the community, Brian and Larry. It's always a pleasure to listen to you, even when I disagree with you.
Which I'm sure is often.
You know what? We appreciate that. If everyone agreed with us, we'd be the only listeners, frankly.
But,
so
one of you mentioned Atlanta. I happen to have a sister-in-law who teaches in the Atlanta public school system, and last year her start date was July 31st. This year it's July 28th. And that's the phenomena that goes on around the country when we let these school dates be determined by people who they're well-intentioned, but they just have the wrong idea about summer vacation.
Tell me about what are these intentions? I want to know what's at the root of this. Who stands up and makes the case for cutting summer vacation short and getting back to school early?
Well, you'll have to ask them, but my assessment of the opposition, it's largely the school superintendents. Number one, it's a turf issue. They want to control it completely. And number two, they have an obsession with standardized tests because that's, I guess, how they rank themselves these days. And so they want to pound these test results into our kids' heads over and over again. And that's the argument. I am not getting involved in that issue, but I am saying it would be beneficial to the kids and teachers and families and the economy also if school started traditionally as it has after Labor Day.
Well, how does that work? Why do you feel that way? What's your evidence?
My evidence is a report that my agency did, which showed it had a significant economic impact on the state. I think it was $75 million of additional economic activity. That was just what we were able to determine. Significant amounts of wage increases and taxes that would come into the state. This is something that would not cost the state anything to do. It would immediately improve the quality of life for our kids and our families who, let's face it, it's a stressful culture that we have. And, people need a break to recharge their batteries. It would also help teachers. There's another high-stress profession.
Yeah.
Rank-and-file teachers are totally for this because they need time to, get their energy back after the exhausting work that they do in schools. So it's a win-win for everybody. The bureaucrats are putting up a fight. The superintendent in Worcester County, where Ocean City is, fervently opposes it, and he went to his county council and said, don't do it, and the county council wisely voted 4-1 to start school after Labor Day over on the shore. And it's this year. It starts September 2nd, and I consider it to be a family favorable policy because, as I said, people need a chance to relax. But it's also good for employment. Teachers need second jobs. Kids need jobs. And if they're leaving in mid-August from Ocean City and Deep Creek Lake and even up at the ballparks and stuff, people can't hire Maryland kids because they all go back to school in mid-August.
Yeah, that's a great point, too. Our guest is Maryland Comptroller Peter Franchot, and he's trying to get local school districts to move the start date for school back to after Labor Day. Can you do this statewide? Can this be something that is
Yes.
decided from Annapolis, and are you trying to do that?
Yes, well, the governor very nicely has spoken in favor of it, and he appointed a gubernatorial task force that was legislated by the General Assembly last year. It's 15 individuals. Everybody was involved, all the stakeholders, all of the interest groups were involved on this panel. Initially, they looked at this during the summer, and they said, no, we're not. We're kind of skeptical. Then they looked at the schedules, Brian and Larry. They looked at the schedules, and they said, my goodness, this can be done very easily.
Yeah.
And so they voted 11-4 to recommend that the legislature, the new one that's being sworn in January, and the new governor, they recommended that there be a state law saying school has to start after Labor Day.
I'm looking at my calendar right now because, I have to write this all down to make sure that I keep up with the school schedule in Montgomery County. Right. First day of school is the 25th of August. So then you go 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and then you got Labor Day. You got a big 3-day weekend. So, first of all, you got to throw, like, the first couple of days of school. That's worthless. nothing happens in the first couple of days of school. You get organized, you find out where your classrooms are, you get your supplies in order, but so really you're taking like 4 days of instruction and then the 3-day weekend.
Exactly.
Seems to make more sense. Just come back after the 3-day weekend.
And go check out the other holidays. They all have free days and half days and full days off tacked on to these long weekends and holidays. The point is that we can very easily fit in after Labor Day and before Memorial Day. You don't have to go way into June with your graduation date if you do this. We can get the 180 days of instruction in, and the kids will be just as smart, just as talented, just as many of them will go to Harvard as their families fervently want. But the key thing is they get to have a real summer.
Yeah.
And
listen, I tend to agree with you, but just to be devil's advocate,
sure.
I mean, what do you say to people who look back at this last year? And by the way, personally, I would rather Annapolis stay out of it. If local districts, if the people want to decide through their own school board that they want to do it differently, let them. That's direct representative democracy. But you look back at last year with all of those snow days and all of the problems that many counties had in getting their requisite number of days in, and they had to cut back in their spring break, I remember, in the Easter vacation. What do you say to the people who say, listen, our kids are already falling behind academically, and our kids are going to have trouble if we have another winter like we did last year? We're not going to get the days in. It's better to start now while the weather is better and get those school days under our belt.
Well, that's one of the points that they raise. I'd be a little more sympathetic if they actually taught in the schools real curriculums. But vast majorities, of these school years now are devoted to these standardized testings. And people just drill them over and over again. Our kids will be fine. They'll be smart. They'll be successful. In fact, I would contend they will be more successful if they benefit from a full summer off where all sorts of things are learned that are not taught in schools. So I guess that's a point if you have a really horrible winter and you have to tack on a couple of extra days. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not interested in dictating to local schools their decisions, but I am interested in making the start date after Labor Day. And frankly, I would continue that and say you need to get out by Memorial Day. And trust me, these kids will be more than educated. And,
all right.
I love to compete with Finland and Sweden and all these schools that have got their kids in their year-round schools. But A, that's very expensive. And B, we don't need to be those countries.
Yeah, no, we can beat them in the Olympics. We don't need to beat them in this. All right, Peter
Okay.
Franchot, Maryland
Following it up
Comptroller.
with you guys. Take care.
Thanks for joining